as well for other emergency certified educators in the district, as we are meaningful and necessary members within the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have one more, Kirsten Callison. Thank you.
Dear Superintendent Robert and board members, my name is Kirsten Callison, and I'm a teacher in Osborne. I speak to you today not only as a dedicated educator with over a decade of experience, but as someone deeply invested in the success of our students, the well-being of our colleagues, and the integrity of our profession. Attending the ASU GCV AI show in San Diego reminded me of the critical role teachers play, not just as classroom leaders, but as change agents preparing students for a rapidly evolving world. What becomes even more clearer is this: supporting students begins with supporting educators and staff. The speakers consistently expressed strong, tangible support for human educators, emphasizing that AI is not intended to replace teachers, but to amplify their voice, streamline routine tasks, and create more time for personalized, meaningful student interactions. Their shared message was clear: the human teacher remained at the heart of learning, with AI as a tool to enhance, not diminish, their impact. I would like this dignified sentiment to echo here in Osborne as well, that teachers are not to be replaced, but respected and supported through thoughtful tools and systems that honor their expertise, amplify their impact, and prioritize time for individualized learning and human connection. And right now, many of us feel that support is inconsistent or unpredictable. While it's recognized that the majority of teachers ultimately return their contracts before the deadline, it's important not to overlook the stress, uncertainty, and confusion that many educators and staff experienced leading up to the deadline. The quantity of contracts returned doesn't fully reflect the quality of confidence or clarity surrounding that process. The anxiety witnessed wasn't imagined, it was real, it was widespread, and it should not be dismissed. The concern now is not just about the contracts returned this year, it's about next year and the year after that. It's about retention, morale, and sustainability. It's about rebuilding trust and ensuring our best educators continue to see Osborne as a place where their work is respected, their time is protected, and their voice matters. There are specific ongoing concerns that reflect this trend, which I urge you to consider. 1, compensation and professional time. Teachers are expected to perform essential tasks, for example, family communication, parent-teacher conferences, IEPs, outside contract hours with no compensation. These tasks are not extra, they are vital and must be supported. A proposal: a paid half hour at the end of each school day for family engagement and IEPs. Number 2, salary step schedule. The current stipend system lacks predictability and undermines trust. A transparent, stable step schedule honors long-term educator commitment and is essential for morale and retention. A reliable step schedule strengthens budget planning, allowing the district to forecast costs, reduce surprises, and use funds wisely. 3, blackout dates for leave. Blackout dates impose restrictions that undermine educators' dignity and devalue educators as professionals. Limitations on leave fail to recognize educators' lives beyond emergencies or death. Progressive organizations offer benefits like unlimited PTO, wellness stipends, and paid travel, enhancing professional performance. Educators are not asking for luxuries, but deserve trust in managing their time with concerns addressed individually, not through punitive policies. 4, contract clarity. Lack of transparency regarding assignments and the use of punitive liquidated damages, which financially penalizes an employee by imposing a substantial amount, equivalent to an entire paycheck, causes distrust and resentment. Contracts should foster collaboration and respect, not control. Advocating for the removal of liquidated damages clauses represents a shift towards recognizing educators as professionals who deserve respect and understanding as they navigate personal and professional life changes. 5, substitute staffing. Proposals to cap district-funded substitute hours raise concern about coverage, implying educators may need to fill gaps and discouraging the use of PTO and sick leave. This policy just suggests teachers should sacrifice their well-being for budget reasons, undermining the value of contracted benefits. When substitutes fail to show, teachers often cover classes without extra pay, reinforcing the expectation to absorb additional responsibilities and leading to feelings of undervaluation and burnout. 6, and lastly, meet and confer process. A formal collaborative process is needed to address systemic concerns and co-create solutions. The lack of activation delays progress and weakens trust. In closing, I envision a district where district leadership sees teachers not as a cost to manage, but as an investment worth protecting, where collaboration is prioritized and decisions are made with us, not about us. We are not asking for luxuries. We are asking for respect, for dignity. Let's work together to build a district where every student thrives because their teachers and staff do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
How's our technology moving along?
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
So at this time, we're going to call on individuals from Montecito Community School, in particular, their ambassadors that are going to speak with us and present some learning for us about their campus, the things that they've been doing. And I believe you guys are going to lead us in the pledge first, right? All right, so everybody, if you could stand for the pledge.
Four is Emma. Good evening, board members and Dr. Roberts. My name is Bruno, and I am part of the Monarch Student Ambassador at Montessori Community School. I am also part of the Ocotillo class. I am also an original member of Montecito and have been here since it first opened, and I was 4 years old. Thanks for inviting us to the meeting. Today, we would like to take this time to share more about our school.
Hello, my name is Rose, and I am in the Desert Rose classroom. The ambassadors support our school by giving tours and answering questions to families and students who are interested in joining the Monarch family. We also help out at events. As a student ambassador, I work to model citizenship for the younger students in our school.
Hello, my name is Esper, and I'm a part of the Foxtail Cactus classroom. Even though we are the newest program in Osborne School District, we work hard to demonstrate excellence in education, just as our sister schools do.
Hello, my name is Emma, and I am part of the Desert Rose classroom. Please enjoy this brief video we have put highlighting our school. Let us know if you have any questions at the end of our time together. Mr. Stacy, please play the video.
Hello, I am Addison, and I am part of the Foxtail Cactus class. We are thankful for the dedication and love that our staff members show our student population, family, community, and school. We would like to recognize some of them at this time.
Hello, my name is Lola and I'm part of the Desert Rose class. We would like to recognize Miss Maria T for the core value of joy. Miss Maria, please join us. Miss Maria is the shining star of our school. She brings beautifully to our campus and joy to our students and staff each day. We are so lucky to have her in the Monarch family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chrissy, and I am part of the Foxtail Cactus classroom. We would like to recognize Mr. Jess for the core value of relationships. Mr. Jess, please join us. Even though Mr. Jess has just started his journey as a monarch, he has already worked to build strong relationships with families and staff. He has also helped bring exciting programs with outside partners to our campus. We are lucky to have Mr. Jess join us in the Monarch community. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, in here.
Hello, my name is Eleanor and I am part of the Desert Rose classroom. We would like to recognize Miss Kira for the core value of growth. Miss Kira, please join us. Miss Kira demonstrates growth when she uses what she knows as she furthers her own education by applying it to her role here at Montecito. She demonstrates flexibility as she works with primary and elementary students. We cannot imagine our campus without Miss Kira.
Hello, my name is Harlow and I'm a part of the Desert Rose classroom. We would like to recognize Miss Linda for the core value of integrity. Miss Linda, please join us. Miss Linda has been with us since the Montessori program first started and demonstrates integrity for her job and our school by modeling respect, responsibility, kindness, and fairness to all who come here. We are a better school because of Miss Linda.
We would like to recognize Miss Terry J for the core value of equity. Each day, Miss Terry J demonstrates how high expectations in our school community lead to progress and success. She ensures us that each student receives the resources and supports they need in order to grow, and she keeps us all on the right track. We would be less organized without Miss Terry J. I will accept this award on her behalf.
If you find yourself curious about what Montessori learning looks like, please let us know. We would love to give you a tour. Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Parents, just to let you know a couple things. Number one, the awards that you saw the students giving out, that's our Spread Love. Love stands for living our values every day. So that's our, you heard them talk about all of those core values: integrity, equity, joy, growth, relationships. One of the other things that was mentioned in the slideshow that happened was about the trip to Camp Tontazono that you guys have coming up. And in that little brief period while we were working on technology, and they did something called the consent agenda, that was one of the items that was approved tonight. So your trip has been approved by this board. And that's all we have for celebrations for today, unless the board has any questions for any of the ambassadors or for Miss Jill.
All right, we'll call a short recess for pictures. All right, so it's 5:59, so let's say 6:05. We'll be back. Thank you. All right, we're going to resume the meeting. Thank you so much, everybody. All right, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the administrative reports. Do we have any questions, comments? All right, well, then we'll move on to the next item. So the next item on the agenda is the bond update.
So, Elizabeth, do we have an update outside of the GMP?
Just very light. We can skip it if you
No, no, no. Come on up.
Sorry, I know y'all
Yeah.
are so tired of hearing.
That is all right. We knew you were going to be
Get
coming up for the
excited.
GMP presentation, but
Yes.
yep,
So,
floor is yours.
super. So it's a pretty short one. Thank you also. Good evening to all of you. It's always an honor to be here. Thank you for allowing me to present to you each month on your project management for your bond program. So we're going to start with, we've got a couple things going on. Both of them are district-wide. We've got a summer project list and we have a summer design list. So these are really kind of more higher level things that we're working at. For our summer project list, we have our job order contract, which is the type of contract we're going to use for the SPED, and that is at Encanto's campus. Don Brubaker is here, our architect, and he is working through the plans for those changes. We've got a contractor kind of on board for that. It's a pretty fairly simple project, but that's going to happen over the summer. We've got shade structures. Some of those are happening earlier than the summer. I believe the one at Longview is already out there. So getting some confirmation of schedules on that, but you know, hopefully some of them are going to happen in May, in the nick of time for when we're getting the sun off of these kids. So Clarendon, they have, their gym is pretty hot. So we're trying to get test and balance done out there. We can't do that until the temperatures are consistently 100 degrees or more. So, but that is one of the things we want to get organized. The sandy sewer lining, that's, you know, again, that keeps, it's going to take a while. We finally got all the drawings in place, and so that's something we're hoping to get done over the summer. The Montecito Central Plant, that's something we'll talk about in a minute for the split GMP. And then there are some very immediate kitchen needs across the different campuses. So Dawn and Corey and I have been working through some of those. We have a consultant. She's been very involved in that process as well, but we want to make sure that Corey, who's been very patient, gets some of these things fixed and some of those immediate needs done. So as far as working on design and what we will be going into the new school year with, design for this boardroom, there's some things obviously that we need to do that have to do with some of the AV and, you know, make things, tonight was a good example of some technical difficulties. So it's easier for Brandon to run that. And you know, Dawn's working on some of those ideas. Longview, they were one of the schools that did not get their playground done during the last grant. And it's because there's only so much room to go out one way, but there's a lot of room to go the other way towards the field. But that field is going to have some drainage and some civil, and we need to really kind of get those drawings and figure out what we can do to be reworking that. So that's just going to take some time, but we're hoping that there's another grant that will happen in October, and we want to be ready for it when it comes. So marquees, we've been working with several different vendors who've done some presentations for us, and that is something that, you know, we need to prepare some of these. I mean, there's been some repairs done to them, but what does the district want that to look like for the next 5 to 7 years? And every campus is going to be a little bit different, so we're just working through the design on that. And storage across campus is one thing that we noticed when we were doing our walks, Don and I, and the principals, is that a lot of times, and I'm sure you're aware of this, a lot of times rooms just become a storage room when it's not really intended to be a storage room. So we want to kind of go through and through these master plans that we worked on to make sure that there is an established and designated storage room for the teachers and the principals so that they and the staff. So we're going to work through that. For tonight, so the next item are the governing board approvals for tonight. It's going to be that Montecito plant split GMP. So that is just that portion. We met with you, I think was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago,
2
yeah.
weeks ago for the work study. So we worked through all of those things. So none of this should be, you know, I think you guys have a pretty good understanding of that, and
when it's time, we'll go ahead and get moving on that. But some of the upcoming approvals that will be coming in the month of May, there's 2 CMARs out that I know you know of, the construction manager at risk. One of them is the instructional learning spaces updates and configurations, and another is the district-wide child nutrition modernizations. So we have a lot of contractors who are starting to bring in, and we're in the process, so we won't talk about it too much, but we are in the process of getting those evaluations and the scoring done. The JOC, that job order contract for Encanto for the SPED, once we have the dollar amount in place from the GC, we'll need an approval from you on that. And then on Montecito, we have not just this GMP split for the central plant, because we've got to really get that moving, but there's also going to be another piece of it that's going to involve demo and preparations and just site readiness. So I don't know, Dawn, do you have anything you want to share on that? No? Okay. Yeah, so those are our next requests from you on that coming up. So that's really all I have for you tonight. And without further ado, how do you want to go ahead and?
For the GMP, we've got a couple action items, so we'll
Yes.
just kind of
Okay.
follow the order of the action items, but we'll be ready to call you back up.
Okay, awesome. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, wonderful.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder to the community, we do have, Mr. Stacy has the updates on the website for the bond, so we really are super excited to see all these changes and updates to our schools. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval and second review of the ASBA policy revisions.
Yeah, so these are coming in waves. We just actually received policy C, the packet today, so that's going to be coming up next month. But today we've got the A policies and the B policies. We did a first reading of the A policies, and there were some questions and requests of governing board members for like clean versions of what the policies look like. There were, last time we discussed, there were crossouts. We wanted that ASBA was recommending certain things be taken out. You guys said, no, we want those things left in there. So over the weekend, I sent you guys the clean versions of a couple policies. But I don't think there's nothing new other than a second reading. So unless you have any questions, I'll turn it back over to our president.
All right, any questions? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the second reading of the ASBA policy revisions?
I move that we approve policies A, AA, ABA, ABAA, AC, ACR, ACA, ACAR, ACAA, ACAAR, GBK, and JII as noted in the policy recommendation spreadsheet.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is the approval and second review of return to work policy, GCQEA.
Hello, that would be me, Superintendent Robert, Governing Board President, members of the board. I am here to present to you a slightly revised version of the policy, which isn't apparently the one that's on the website, but I do believe you all have the one that our council modified slightly.
We made an amendment to the agenda.
Great. I'm sorry I didn't open that amendment. My apologies. So our council, Jessica Sanchez, who you met a couple meetings ago, did make some revisions that would, in summary, exclude the information pertaining to year one, as they are not our employees. So her perspective was not our employees. No need to make those specifications in the policy, as well as an understanding that the contract and/or MOU that we would have with the partner organization is subject to change. So in order to cover our assets, her recommendation was to strike said language, which is reflected in the version that you all would have seen. So it is our recommendation as administration to approve the second review of the return to work policy, GCQEA, as revised by our council.
All right, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, do we have a motion to approve the second review of the return to work policy, GCQEA?
I move to approve GCQEA. Second.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you.
All right, so we are gonna move on. So now we have the B item. So approval of first review of ASBA policy revisions for the B ones.
All right, so this was a very, very long list. You got a comprehensive spreadsheet. President Ramos and I met last week to go through these policies, and you know, most of them are pretty straightforward. There are some minor changes that we made. One of them, I put a recommendation in there, but it's open to you guys. So on policy, all of these policies are related to governing board. That's what section B is. So policy BBA, which is on board powers and responsibilities. There's a section about quorum and vacancies, specifically the quorum. So when we show up here to the meeting and we're waiting for a quorum, most of the time we've got our quorum right away, but we've never had a long period of time that we're waiting for a quorum. But the policy has a blank in it that we would wait so many minutes before the meeting's canceled. Technology, we do a really good job of communicating with one another by text or phone calls or whatever, saying, hey, I'm going to be so many minutes late. This isn't really an issue, but we should still have a number in policy. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for pointing out that we needed to put a number in there because I was an oversight on my end going through these policies. My recommendation is that we throw in there 15 minutes. Okay. The other change that was made on these policies is.
Can I ask a question
yeah,
about that?
Please.
So, just for clarity, if, you know, I don't know, there's some sort of situation and we know that they're coming, but it's going to be 20 minutes.
Yep.
We can, as a board, just say, hey, you know what, we're okay
That's right.
with this.
Yes, because the policy says may.
Right.
That we may cancel the meeting after 15 minutes, but if we've got 2 members here and we've already texted, and we know that third member is 5 streets down, we're just going to wait. But we can't make that decision after 10 minutes. We got to wait at least the 15 minutes. Okay. And if we get there, then we may cancel the meeting and reschedule. The other policy had to do with board officers. The policy only had for a president. And what to do in the absence of a president. So I added in their language about the election of the board president, the duties and responsibilities of the president. I added in a section about the board clerk, duties and responsibilities of the board clerk. And with that, in the absence of the president, you know, one of the job duties and responsibilities is the running the meeting in the absence of the president. Now, if we've got a quorum, but neither the president nor the clerk are here, that's when I put in the language about there would be a temporary election. There would be the election of a temporary president, someone to run the meeting for that night. The rest of the policies, you know, all my changes there's some pretty minor changes. Now, a lot of these B policies are cancellations. So, you know, we had some questions about like, what did it mean so I listed out on the A policies. And that's why, Ms. Greenberg, when you made your motion, you read out a list of all those policies. This is a super exhaustive list, and I haven't gotten any questions other than the ones that I've answered to you guys through emails. So in here is a comprehensive spreadsheet that's part of the public board packet as well. So if you're fine with these policies, if you don't have to call them all out, just say as presented. The presentation includes not only the changes to policy, but also the deletions of policies. So you're approving any changes that were recommended by ASBA. You're approving any changes that President Ramos and I wrote and added to this spreadsheet, and you're also approving deleting the policies recommended by ASBA because they were just moved into other policies.
All right, any questions, comments? All right, well, thank you so much. Yes, this list was very exhaustive. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the first review of the ASBA policy revisions as stated in the spreadsheet that Dr. Robert sent us and that is attached to the packet?
I move to approve the first read as presented.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, so we're moving on to item D, audit reports for fiscal year of 2024.
Good evening. The fiscal year 2024 audit reports were presented and discussed at the work study 2 weeks ago. And we had the partner from our audit firm, Dan Johnson, here to go over the results and reports and answer any questions. So I just wanted to make sure the community is aware that we did have a very in-depth discussion and presentation with the board on our financial statements already. So unless there's any additional questions, the reports have not changed, and so they're ready for official action. It does need to happen through a roll call vote, though.
Roll call vote? Okay. Do we have any questions? All right. So do we have a motion to approve the audit reports for the fiscal year 2024?
I'll move to approve the audit reports for fiscal year 2024.
Do we have a second? All right, so now we'll have to do, now that it's been moved and seconded, we'll have to do a roll call vote. So, Board Member Thompson? Aye. Board Member Ford?
Aye.
Board Clerk Greenberg?
Aye.
And it is an aye for me too. All right, perfect. So motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, next item on the agenda is the recommendation to approve notice of appointment language and issuance for classified hourly staff.
Hello. So you all are aware that we've had our contract return for every other employment group. However, our classified hourly staff is next up. And thank you all for partitioning it in that way. So our very small department of 3 has capacity to issue them in this way. So we're prepared to issue our notice of appointment language to classified hourly staff on April the 28th, pending you all would approve the language. If you'll notice on the actual document, there's a significant portion highlighted in yellow. That is new language from our attorney, just commensurate to allow us the opportunity to provide a raise of up to 10%, and she felt that it was germane to include that language as necessary for cost of living, pending funding. So, but it's up to. So we will be able to issue the notices of appointment on the 28th, and then after funds are determined within our budget, we'd be able to issue our staff addendum, which is what we intended to do with all the other contracted staff who've already received their salaries for the upcoming year. So it's our recommendation that this language be approved, as well as the issuance be set for any date after today, but we asked for it to be April 28th.
All right, perfect. Do we have any questions?
Not a question, but I know that in Arizona, funding can fluctuate. It can be difficult to plan ahead in many ways, but we know that there are districts that do, and I think it's important for our staff to have that transparency when they're signing a contract, to know that this is, I know that this is a minimum, but this is their current salary. And even if it was a range, like if we could predict and say, hey, you know what, it's going to be either between like a 2 to 4% raise depending on funding or something like that, so that they know that maybe there's something, or, I think oftentimes we do try to give raises to staff. So it's just, something so that they know that they're making more potentially in the next year. If we can, I know that there are some years where we can't say that, but I do think just planning ahead, and sometimes we have to make decisions in other areas of our budget. But, our staff, they should know what, and if it's higher, then that's great. But at least if they have an idea of, hey, I'm going to be making at least this minimum and not being at that current salary.
What I hear you saying is the potential for a recommendation that our budget committee process happen a little sooner. At present, it happens in the spring, which is why the notice of appointment comes out first, and then they get addendums thereafter. But if I'm understanding you correctly, the recommendation will be for prior to receiving your notice, prior to receiving your contract, you have an understanding of a potential percentage of what your salary will be for the upcoming year, which might, don't know, but might incentivize more staff to stay if they knew this is what I'll be making.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
that
I think
correct?
it's yes and no. So I would say instead of budget committee, though, these are items that really should be going through meet and confer. And again, following that timeline that's in policy, these are things that should be discussed well ahead in the beginning of the school year, or even like the conversations we're having at the beginning of the school year, we're planning for the next school year ahead. Would be even more ideal, which again, I know is difficult, but not impossible. And we know, that we get a certain percentage from the state every year. So maybe, even if we're starting with that at minimum, the raise, and if we get more money, great, then we'll renegotiate and have those conversations. I don't think anybody would be upset if somebody said, hey, you're gonna actually make some more.
Understood.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Thank you so much. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
I move to approve the recommendation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. I know that you all have a small department, but you are definitely mighty, so we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right, and now our last action item is the approval of Montecito GMP 01.
All right, and Colleen's coming up, but I believe Elizabeth and Don, you guys are here. I don't know if you're coming up with her or if you're just here to answer questions. All
Yes,
right.
I think they're here to answer any additional questions that you may have. So this is the recommendation for approval of our first GMP, Guaranteed Maximum Price, as part of the Montecito project. This is for the central plant equipment and repairs. As the board's aware, the central plant failed in October of the fall this past year, and so we've had a rental unit in there for several months now. And so while we are still kind of polishing up and finishing up what the other pieces, because this will not be the only GMP coming before the board for the Montecito project. We're still finishing up those numbers. This first one needs to happen regardless in order to get that rental and get that central plant back up and functioning on its own. And so we've gone through and had many site walks between SPS Plus, between Chase Building Team, between engineering, and having everyone out there and really doing a good analysis of what the system needs. And so our recommendation is to go with a repair of the actual cooling towers themselves versus a complete replacement. Saves a little bit of money there, and the trade-off was 1 year of additional warranty, which we didn't feel like was worth that additional cost, which we can put those dollars into then the next GMPs that are gonna come before you for the project. But there are some components where we are doing a complete replacement versus repair, and some of the other pieces, such as the VFDs and other line items that you see in that guaranteed maximum price. Are there any questions?
All right, we're good. Thank you so much. Do we have a motion to approve the Montecito GMP?
I'll motion to approve.
Do we have a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. All right, and then our next item on the agenda is board development. I can get us started with that?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So
Your PowerPoint pulled up, or was that just there for the
no, that was
board
just
members?
for
Okay.
for board members and community to be able to read. I'll have some just a question. Wanted people to be able to reflect on that as well. So thank you so much. Earlier this month, I was able to attend the NASBA, which is the National School Boards Association, their annual conference, and last year I was there with Clerk Greenberg, and it's a huge conference. So many sessions to go to. Usually the breakout sessions, there's like 10 options, which is really hard to pick which one. But I was able to attend some really interesting sessions that I would love to bring some of those things to Osborne. So some of those things, I'll be brief, were student leadership. So Pendergast School District actually was presenting that one, and it was their 8th grade superintendent student council, and they actually had 4 of their 8th graders who are currently part of that council there. And I was just blown away by how well spoken they were, all the ideas that they had, and just the confidence to be able to sit in front of an audience of people and really share what they see in their schools and the changes that they would like to have. And so really just the opportunity to have those students be in that leadership role at such a young age, I feel would be really great for us to have here at Osborne as well. And when I spoke to Dr. Robert about it, we talked about whether they could be student board members or they could be part of student council, just giving us monthly reports. I know that PXU does pick 2 to 3 of their high schools, and their student council comes and gives a report at every single meeting. And so every meeting, it's a different 2 to 3 high schools. And one of the things that they are asked to do and is to give suggestions to the board as to how they would be able to, the changes that they want to see implemented in their schools. So just an idea. And there was a presentation around that topic as well from the National Student Board Member Association, which I did not get to attend, but it could be something that we might be able to look into to see what resources they have for us to be able to have that. Another presentation that I attended that really called my attention was the student attendance. And so there's an organization called Knowledge, KNOWLEJ. And so they were talking about how the school districts provide incentives for student attendance, whether it's something small to something big that can happen at the end of the school year. And they actually, I think I filled out their survey, and so they reached out recently, offering a meeting to give us more information on the services and the just their pillars that they have in regards to student attendance. So might be something we might be able to host a meeting with them virtually, maybe a work study session. Another one that was called Building Bridges Between the Board and the Community. And so I think we've talked a lot about just the relationship that as a board we have with the community. Recently, we've been hearing from different teachers, staff members reaching out to us, which I truly appreciate because we're not in the classroom, so we don't see what's going on and what issues are happening or the exciting things either, right? So I think it's great for our board. It would be great if we could be able to start doing this. And actually, I brought some of and I folded them to fit in my backpack, but they have Building Bridges with the Board. And so it's a series of community outreach meetings facilitated by the board. And it was launched to increase community engagement with their board members. As a result, several main topics of discussion and action items have been implemented from the feedback received at the meetings. And so they had this little handout, which I can share with Brendan to upload. But they were talking about how they held these meetings and parents were able to come and really talk about the things that they wanted to see implemented. And so I know we're currently in the strategic planning. And so I really would love for us to not just hold these meetings for parents for strategic planning, but also for anything in the future. I think it's important for us to hear not just from staff, but also from the parents and the community members. What do they want to see in our schools so that way we can ensure that they're sending their students to our schools. And then the other thing that they had was table talks with the board. And so this is the same school board. And Table Talks was launched to increase engagement and encourage dialogue between the board members and campus and district staff members. And so they also identified action items. And so they had this nice little sheet where they had what they identified. And so what they shared with us was that they actually had board members who would go to different campuses and essentially just set up a table, and they were available to speak with the staff and hear their concerns or hear what successes they were having, what they would like to continue seeing at their schools. So it might be something that we might be able to discuss as a board and see how we would be able to implement something like that. Like I said, I just think it's super important for us as board members to be hearing from our community, to be working with our staff, so that way we are ensuring that we are making decisions based on what is best for everybody. And the last thing was the strategic planning presentation. So I was able to download the presentation. Not every presenter added that to their to the application, but I wanted everybody to be able, community, staff, board members, to be able to see the presentation. I know it wasn't like a lot of information, but wanted to ask the other board members. So, is there anything from the presentation that stood out to you in regards to the strategic planning?
I just really like the idea of making sure that our community is engaged in a really meaningful way. And I think that the table talks that you talked about, and having different specific topics that we're talking to the community about, and the community meaning our school staff, our students, our parents, business members. These are all people that are impacted by our schools in various ways, and their voices should be a part of it. I think it also, when you have a strategic plan and you have had that input, there's more buy-in so that we can really work on those goals in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the SMART goals that they talked about, and would love for us to be able to. I've been watching other board meetings as well, so I usually listen to them while I'm working. But there's other school boards here in Arizona who part of their board meeting is to talk about the results of their goals and how they are moving along with them. So I think that as we go through the strategic planning and we set our mind to those goals, that it would be great for us to be able to give our community an update at our board meetings to see how far along we're getting, or if we're not moving, and to start, coming up with solutions as to how we can start moving along those goals. So yeah, so those are my updates for the
Along with
conference.
that too, not just talking about, like updates on like some of the action items on the strategic plan, but also like linking the board's work to the strategic plan. So every action item should be able to link to, because that's what you're doing. Like those action items are your public work, of or that your part in it, that approval of that work that's happening. And so being able to publicly make that link, it's like that accountability for, yes, this is, we're not just approving all of these things. These are all items that are moving our strategic plan forward.
Yeah.
So utilizing our agenda even for, communicating that message as well.
Definitely. Any other comments, questions? All right. Well, the next item is Dr. Robert will share information with us.
And, I actually got an email, and you guys got an email too from Kirsten, who went to the ASU plus GSV conference. And that conference was 2 parts. So were you just at the AI show? Yeah, don't have the funding for the other one, but I know, and I was fortunate that my superintendent, it's an expensive conference. And the through Arizona State University, the superintendent's group that I belong to, I got scholarship to go to that. Otherwise, it's like $2,000, I think, just for registration to attend that. So quite an expensive conference. But my sessions that I attended, it's an overwhelming conference. It started on, when did the AI show start? On Saturday? Yeah, so it was Saturday through Wednesday. Going back. Saturday, Sunday, and going into Monday was the AI show. And then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was the ASU plus GSV. So that's the Global Silicon Valley. This is year 16 of the conference. And when it started out, I don't know, all those years ago, it was not that big. Just speaking with a couple superintendents that attended, just prior to COVID, there were maybe 4,000 people at the conference. This conference had over 10,000 people in attendance. You would just have to scroll and scroll and scroll through all the concurrent sessions that were happening. Being my first, I met with a couple superintendents and said, how do you go about doing this? It's so overwhelming. And so I kept a lot of my attendance at the larger sessions that were, not a lot of small breakout rooms, but bigger global ideas. And I'd love to, Kirsten, you brought up that you'd like to have an opportunity to present to the board. So if we could bring it back to a future board agenda, I'd love to collaborate with Kirsten and put together just some opportunities to share some things that were learned from both the AI session as well as the general conference. You may have seen some clips. So ASU really went out of their way to try and be inclusive with thoughts in education. And so, both sides of the aisle were presented in some very strong fashions. I was present at the session that Linda McMahon was at, and it was interesting. A lot of the ideas that were presented, a lot of softball questions, and not really deep in terms of getting into policy discussions. A lot of what I heard, and that has nothing to do with being on different sides of the aisle. It has to do with the depth of knowledge. And so it was a great opportunity actually to go and hear some presentations that were not in alignment with my values or views on education, and being able to share that space and have dialogue, deep dialogue, and hear why do you think this, and challenge ideas back and forth, and engage with others that were present. It's disappointing to hear some top leadership though not have that level of depth, and be able to. It's online, so I'll share that one session with you, but there was a real lack of depth there. However, the entire conference as a whole was very, very forward-thinking, and it covered there was a whole strand just on early learning, lots of sessions on, it was from pre-K to gray, was how they talked about lifelong learning, and shared vertical, thinking vertically from our pre-K structures to early elementary to high school, community college sessions, university sessions, and then workforce sessions, and how technology can really move us forward. There were lots of corporate, private partners in association with a lot of school districts and in association with a lot of other companies, with nonprofits. So it was a fascinating, 5 days of learning. I was there for 3, and Kirsten was there for the other 2 days. So look forward to possibly getting together and sharing some information. You shared a lot of resources there that you were prepared to share. So maybe we can pick 1 or 2 sessions that we can put in a future board session.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. All right, so we'll be moving on to the reflections of the meeting. So, Board Member Thompson.
I just want to thank Montecito for coming out and giving that presentation on that. So I thought that was great. And glad we're moving along on the GMPs and getting that so Montecito can all get wrapped up and get in better shape than it is now. So that's about it.
Thank you so much. Board Member Ford.
Thank you, President Ramos. I want to also thank Montecito for being here. It's really lovely to see a school that is growing and thriving, and is continuing to increase enrollment in our district. Montecito is a super special place, and it was great to see the students lead their own meeting today in front of a bunch of scary adults, I'm sure, but they did such a great job. So thank you to all of the staff over at Montecito for providing such an exceptional education for our students. As we get toward the budget being passed with the legislature, I just really want to echo sentiments that have been here on the dais before, that it's really time for Arizona legislature to step up and fund our schools. We know that the Department of Education is being deliberately dismantled by the federal government, and a lot of the funding that we've already seen cuts to our funding here in Arizona,
and cuts to our funding here, specifically in Osborne, from the federal government. And so it's really time for the legislature to step up and actually fund our public schools and to help us dig ourselves out of the budget hole that will be any more cuts to education. So, you know, my plea is to the majority party in the legislature, fund our schools. The majority party has been the majority party since 1992 in our legislature, and education is just getting stripped more and more away from our communities. And so it's really time, if the majority party really cares about kids, how they say they care about kids, it's time for them to fund our schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clerk Greenberg.
I want to thank the members of our community for coming out. I know that coming, you know, up here and whether you're a student or an adult, it's can be nerve-wracking, but I really appreciate that our community is willing to, you know, speak with us, and also it was great seeing our kids presenting the awards, really with very little assistance, which was really cool to see. Yeah, I think that as a board, looking at the policies that we've been passing or revising, I know that ASPA has many of those recommendations, but we as a community really show our values. And I know that there were some little tweaks. We had our safe schools policy that we passed a couple meetings ago. So I really want to thank, you know, my fellow board members for really putting our students and community first in these decisions.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to reflect on the fact that April is National Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. Earlier today, I was at a meeting, and the lady that was escorting me to the meeting shared with me, she knew that I was on the board of the Osborne School District, and she said, she spoke really greatly of you, Dr. Robert, first of all, and then also just complimented the dual language program that we have here in our school district. And so I let her know that is something that we're extremely proud of and that we are going to continue to fight for, and to ensure that we continue having it, that it's stronger, and that's I know my dream is to see it all the way through 8th grade. So I'm hoping that dream becomes a reality soon enough or in the near future. But yeah, so it's really great to know that our community sees us and sees how great we are. And then ditto to everything else that my fellow board members said. Dr. Robert?
Yeah, so besides the fun of seeing the Montecito presentation, we rarely get a chance, you know, the whole reason we do a consent agenda, so we're not talking through every single little thing that needs to be approved. But one thing that kind of links between some upcoming work, you know, we approved our first GMP tonight. There are more that are going to be coming up as we're going through, and again, like Elizabeth said, not going to get too much into the processes that we're going through with firms bidding on the CMARs, but one of those is for the child nutrition upgrades that are happening. And one of the things that you guys approved tonight in the consent agenda was out-of-state travel for our child nutrition department. So besides Corey going, besides Madison going, besides Teresa, you know, from our district, all of our all of our managers are going. And so for them to have this opportunity to go to this national conference and learning about, you know, regulations that they're about their kitchens that they're running, about, you know, just good practices and management, and also the scratch cooking techniques that are necessary. You know, when we had the firms there and were presenting that RFQ, Corey got a chance to go up and talk about philosophically who we are as a district. And that's reflected in the type of conference that he's trying to take folks to. So there's a real connection between the different approvals that you're doing. You're approving for folks to go and get this professional learning. And then we're also looking to do work with our bond specific to the type of program that we're trying to build. We're not making a ditto of what other districts' kitchens look like. We're, you know, they're education centers, nutrition centers, and feeding centers. So there's a strong connection between them. So just wanted to pull something out of the consent agenda to highlight for tonight.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now to our final item, which is future agenda items. Board Member Thompson? Board Member Ford,
None for me.
Clerk Greenberg.
Just a side note, since you had mentioned multilingual learner advocacy month, I also wanted to mention it is Arab American Heritage Month as well. And as an Arab, and I know we have many students that are Arab, I just want to honor that too. So thank you for reminding me. And then I did want to add for a future agenda item, I would love to have a meet and confer update. And I would invite Storm or OEA or a representative to join in that if they so choose.
Yep, thank you. And for me, I would love for us to revisit the liquidated damages conversation we had last year. And so if we could add that to the future agenda. All right.
All right.
We're good. All right. This is probably the earliest meeting we've ended in a while. So we're adjourning the meeting at 6:51. Thank you, everybody, for being here.